Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. Today we are going through our Age of Sigmar Dominion set and we're going to be building our models. And today's model we're going to be doing the Lord-Imperatant. So if you flip over to the sprue guide, you'll see E and F. Those sprues actually come together. I'm going to separate them right there. So what we're wanting is sprue E, and there's a giant E right there on the sprue. So what I'm going to do, cut it apart. There. And now I have the sprue I want. I'm going to get bases. So if we go back to the instructions here, we see we're going to need a 40mm base with 2 holes and a 32mm base with 1 hole for the model to fit in. Now I have my base and I'll double check the size. There we go. It fits in the 40mm circle and it has the 2 holes I'm looking for. And 32, it fits in that circle and has the hole I'm looking for. Excellent. Now what I'm going to do is you'll notice I have the book in a baking sheet. And the reason is when I start clipping these out, I will inevitably drop one of these bits. The baking sheet has a nice little rim to catch the bit. But we're going to need some, I like to use plastic glue. You don't have to. You can use super glue if you want. X-Acto blade. Some really sharp clippers from Germany. And I use a file. Now sometimes if I'm using tiny pieces, which I don't think will be the case with this model, I'll have little tweezers to lower them in. But to get started, first thing we're going to do is, since we have our page open, we're going to take our clippers and we're going to start clipping all the bits out. Now what we want to do is, you'll see there's a flat side to the clippers and we're going to hold that side to the model. So let's start with this Gryph-hound here. And we want them really sharp and the flat side toward it, because what it does, it makes a nice flush surface. And otherwise, with dull blades, it'll cause this mushrooming effect. So we'll take there. And what we're going to do is, as we cut out the pieces, we're going to set them down on where they go in the model. So you can see, you just want to get the nice tightest fit to separate the model from the sprue. You try to minimize the amount of cleaning we're going to have to do later. So we'll take E1 and we'll place it there. So I'm going to go through this and unclip them all. Now I have all my bits cut out and laid out where they go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start cleaning the model. And let's give an example of that. So let's just take this piece here. So you saw where we cut it off from the sprue. You'll get these little nubs right here where the sprue gate attaches into the model. So I'm just going to take a little blade, just going to smooth that down, make a little flush so that when I paint it doesn't show up in the paint job. Do you have to do this? No, not in these models. They assemble pretty well. But it's a good habit to get into. Now something else that is the next step, and a lot of people don't do, is you take a little metal file, and you find the remainings of those nubbins, and you just grind them down. Alright, now let's take another piece right here. You can see that where the sprue gate's attached, like right there, you'll see that there's a little mold line that goes all around the model and connects all those little sprue gates. So I like to remove those. So I just lightly go around the model and file off those attachments. Now, there is a diminishing return to this approach. For example, I will not do that to these tight little Sharpie bits right here. There's a good chance I'll just rip them off with the scraping action. So I'll leave those alone. So now I'm going to do is clear off all the sprue gates and the mold lines, and then we'll start assembly. Now all my pieces are cleaned. Now it's time to start assembly. So we'll just start going down and start putting these pieces together. So you can see a lot of these are slot based. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some plastic glue. Now something you shouldn't do is actually put the glue on the peg. You can see this guy fits in right there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put some on his back and put some where his leg's going to go. Now what the plastic glue is going to do is it's going to melt the model. Now this will give you a little bit of play as the model goes together. So if you make mistakes you can adjust, whereas super glue is easy to break apart. Now let's get this knee here. And the reason we don't do in the peg holes is because these are so tightly machined that it takes up too much space. Now this is one of those tiny bits I might have to switch to the tweezer. Nope, went in there. I'll push it down with my dainty fingers. Alright, so let's move on to the weapons. So I'm just going to put some glue around the peg hole. Something I can do is take this and squeeze it into place. And you can hear the air escaping as it pushes into the peg. One nice tight fit. Otherwise the chest piece wouldn't fit right. And your kid will look at it and say, "Daddy, why is my piece not fitting in there right?" And we'll go in there. Okay. And then we'll put in the head bit. Oh, I put this in the wrong hole. And that's the nice part about plastic glue. So I can correct for errors. Because this is where the headpiece is supposed to go. Come on. Alright, squeeze that into place. And let's see, just make sure this all lines up before I attach them. Alright, cool. So put a little bit more glue where the chest will go. And around the peg. And squeeze that into place. Now, next, let's see how, now I'm getting further along. I want to dry fit it in there. Make sure I'm not making too many mistakes before I actually put the glue on, since the glue will melt the plastic. Alright. So what I'll do is I'll line this piece. These I know will be good contact points. There we go. Squeeze that into place. Okay, that'll go there. See, this already came, like, you can see the stress mark right there on that. Not cool. Okay, so I'm going to do the model. We'll get ready to put on his belt and such. Alright, now I'll go there, So I'm going to snap him into place. Just a little glue over there. A little bit of glue. Come on, you. Give me that other foot. I want to pop it up just a little bit. Just shoot a little glue under there. Now I'll seat them down. Excellent. Now we're ready to attach him to his base. And, you know, this is still plastic, but I always feel better using a little super glue to attach him to his base. Just because I feel it's two different types of plastic. Take my chances. Alright, so just around the edge here, not on the pig hole. Good. And what we would do is we want to check it. Make sure that space is aligned. Excellent. And we have our little reeds, which I think is a really nice touch to this model. Come on, you. Alright, so the big reed is going that way. Ah, skull side out. Come on, you. There we go. It'll make it fun getting a brush back there with this reed in place, but that's life. So our Imperator, Lord-Imperatant, is done. Let's get on with the Gryph-hound here. I'm going to run a bead just along the seam here, not all the way along the edge. I don't want it squishing out the seam line, but you can use it to kind of hide that seam line. Aren't you going in? You want a nice tight fit. What I'm going to do, see how that looks. See, while glue is still in there and still wet, I can run my little file down these lines, and that will start filling it in. So that way it won't show up in the paint job. Alright. And let's see how his little baby foot will go in there. Okay. Super glue there, there, not on the peg hole. There we go. Remember, slope down when you're doing that. And let's see, where does he want to go? Okay, like that. Make it top off my super glue. Okay, and then we connect. Excellent, and we're all done. So, assembly took just a little under 10 minutes. And here we go. We now have our Lord-Imperatant. Very nicely done model. Easy to put together and clean. Alright, well, thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs, and we'll see you next time.